Hey, I'm Jeanine. This is my garden, and let me tell you the 6 mistakes I made when I put in these raised beds so you don't make the same mistakes. This year we're ripping them all out and we're putting in new ones. So first off, when we designed these, and by we I mean me, so I had access to a bunch of 16-foot rough sawn 1-inch by 12-inch pine, but it was untreated and it was great. And I wanted to make the most use of like the 24-foot by 24-foot area I was allowed to grow in our yard that my husband now has let me slightly expand. And so I wanted to put in really long beds. And it was a good idea at first, except as you can see, we got a lot of bowing. And that happened because I did not put any bracing in between the sides farther down the beds. And they're untreated. Wasn't the best material to use. So if I would do it all over again, I'd use a different material and I'd add bracing. The next design flaw I had when I made these was in my corner construction. When I first put these together, all I did was use some deck board screws and tried screwing them together. And with the pressure of the soil in here, they started pulling apart and a lot of my screws ended up breaking. So I had to come back through the following year and add in these corner braces. So if I was to do this again with wood ones, I would start with the corner braces to begin with, and I would probably add a post here in the middle to secure the sides too. Next problem that I had when I made these is I only had them 12 inches tall. This is what I had to work with. And if I would have had more lumber, I probably would have made these deeper. It would have been more costly to fill. And I obviously was trying to be more cognizant of how much I was spending. But because they're only 12 inches tall, I had so much grass growing up underneath my beds and into my beds. My soil has settled a lot and I get a lot of quack grass growing underneath. So if I was to do it all over again to save my back, make it easier on me, easier to maintain between the beds, I would make them taller. I'd make them at least probably 24 inches tall. Which also brings up why the grass is coming in. Because I made them only 12 inches tall and they were kind of like in-ground raised beds, I didn't put a weed barrier down underneath my beds, which is a big reason why I'm getting all of that grass coming up underneath the beds. Lastly, I would make my aisles a little bit wider. The aisles between my north-south beds and my east-west beds, I made 3 feet wide, but the aisles between my beds, I only made 30 inches. And if I would go back and do it all over again, I would make them at least 36 inches because then it's wide enough that you can get a wagon or buckets and stuff and you can easily like kneel or sit in between the beds to work in them. So there you have it. The 6 mistakes I made when I made these beds that I'm not going to make the next time around. I would make them taller. I'd put a weed barrier underneath. I would do corner bracing if I used lumber again. I would brace in between the sides to prevent bowing. I'd use a different material for the lumber in general. I wouldn't use untreated pine again, even though it was really cost effective. And then I would make my aisles wider, make it easier to get in between my beds.
If you want to see how we rip this all out and completely transform this garden to avoid those 6 mistakes and probably make some new ones, hit that subscribe button.